Oh my god, yum. I made my own banana bread syrup because I had a banana that was going off, and I have all the other things, so I'm going to make this immediately. And it's literally so nice. Oh my god, they're so loud. Hello, my loves. It's Abby, and welcome back. I just want to start off by saying that if you can hear a load of birds chirping, we have birds that have resided in the roof somewhere for the past few years. So every spring, you can hear the chicks, and they are screaming all day, every day. So if you can hear that and if you can hear noise from outside, it's terribly sorry, but you know what? It is what it is. We'll get the birds sorted eventually, but that's not what we're here for. Today, I'm going to talk about the 5 books that I managed to finish in April. All of them were either audio or digital. There is one physical book that I got so close to finishing, but because we were busy. Oh my god, did that just fly right in front of the lens? It wasn't like a little wish. You know what I mean? From like a, I don't know, dandelion or something. Go away, little fairy. There is one physical book that I got so close to finishing, and then we got busy towards the end of the month, and I literally finished it on the 1st of May, which is partly annoying. I don't really care about carrying books over, but when you only have I think I only had about 50 pages or something, and I was like, if I just sat down and read this, I could have got it done, but I just didn't have the time. So I will discuss that a little bit later on. We'll save the full spiel until the May wrap up. But let's start off with the first book that I finished was Brigands and Bread Knives by Travis Baldree. This is the 3rd book in the Legends and Lattes series, and I wasn't planning to pick this up for a little while just because it is a more recent release, and the other 2 I've gotten when they were 99p on Kindle, but I believe this one did come up on a monthly Kindle deal, so I was like, you know what, I've got to do it. I really loved the last 2 books. This one was, oh my god, the birds are literally so loud. I wonder how loud you can hear them. This one was really sweet. And I liked that it was a bit more of a adventure story than what the last 2 were. I do love Fern as a character, but something about this just didn't kind of give me the same sort of feelings like the last 2 books did. I did still really enjoy it, and I really like the writing, and I really like the world, but this just didn't give me the same, I guess, kind of connection to the character, even though what she was going through, kind of having a bit of, I guess, a crisis of what makes you happy and what makes you fulfilled, and thinking everything in my life is okay, I should be appreciative and be enjoying where I am and not being able to. So I really like those themes, and I love the friendships, and I did really enjoy the ending, but yeah, it just didn't quite hit me the same, especially because the last book was a solid 5 out of 5 for me. I gave this a 3.5. It was very enjoyable, but it's just fine. It was nice. I will say I really enjoyed the letter and the writing aspect of it, and I enjoy that even though Fern wasn't as connected with being a bookseller, she still had her love for fiction and stories, and she was writing, and that was a tool for her to work through what was happening and how she felt and how she was going to explain this to her friends. I literally didn't even actually write anything. I need to start doing this more so that I remember, because obviously I finished this a full month ago now. I think because it was one that hasn't stuck with me, I can't remember everything that I might have said about it if I was talking about it when I just finished. Still lovely. Still going to pick up whatever Travis Baldree writes next. And then the next book that I finished, I sped through this, especially considering how long it took me to get through the tandem read. But I read Kingdom of Ash by Sarah J. Maas, the final book in the Throne of Glass series, and I could not put this down, but I was also so scared to finish it. I didn't want the story to be over. There is literally not a second of rest in this book. You are on the edge of your seat the whole time. I do feel like I was never truly worried about all of the characters, because I didn't get the vibe that Sarah J. Maas was going to kill off all of the crew. I wasn't surprised by what happened at the end. I do think it was all, in a way, fairly predictable story and ending, but at the same time there was still so many moments that really got me and were really gut-wrenching, where every character's journey went and ended was so beautiful. And I loved how each war actually felt like a war with real consequences going on, especially for Adian's journey and where his character was and their battles and journey. Oh my god, Honey's meowing outside the door. Honey has been a menace today. Jesus, she literally won't stop. We put some weed killer out in the garden to try and take control of the brambles, and we can't let Honey out because we don't want her munching the grass that's got weed killer all on it. And she's just so mad. Really mad. I don't know how to describe my emotions for this series and the journey and the conclusion that this finale gave us. It's kind of hard to discuss it without giving spoilers, obviously. This is is it a 7-book series? Is it 7 books with Assassin's Blade, or is it 8 books with Assassin's Blade? I always forget. But this was just such a perfect conclusion to this series. Obviously, the place that it started out, you never would have guessed that it would grow to such a large-scale fantasy with such an interesting world and characters that you really care for. Like, if you have yet to start Throne of Glass, or you read the first book and you're like, don't really know, it's fine. Like, I genuinely thought the first 2 books were like so average, and I was like, none of this makes sense, the writing's so bad, like I literally don't know what the point of these are. And then it just levels up and it sweeps you up with these characters. And I know a lot of people think, why would I read a series where you need to get to book like 3 or 4 for it to be good? But the first 2 books are literally so quick to fly through, and then the payoff that you get from this series as it goes on is so worth it. I genuinely think by the end of it was so well crafted. I did give Kingdom of Ash 5 stars. I genuinely couldn't think of anything that I didn't enjoy about it, apart from I wish some characters didn't have to do what they did, is what I'm gonna say. And I just feel like the final battle and how they overcame the enemy was done really well. And I liked how the ending wrapped everything up, but didn't go further than that. You know, you don't know where these characters are 10 years, 20 years from now. They have got through their journey, and now their lives at that stage are just beginning. And I think that's really beautiful. So Kingdom of Ash and the Throne of Glass series is a highly worth reading if you haven't already read it. And I already can't wait to reread it. I think I'm gonna listen to the graphic audios. I'm sure there's graphic audios of this when I'm feeling up to a reread. But yeah, it was stunning. So glad that I read that. Like I said, full 5 stars, no notes. It destroyed me. It really felt crazy to finally have that experience again of finishing a larger fantasy series, because I feel like I haven't done that in so long. I did read a trilogy last year, but because this was so many books, it's like the end of a journey and the end of an era with these characters, you know? The next book that I finished, I read this via audiobook, and that was The 7 Moons of Mali Almeida by Shehan Karand Hilaka. I realised that I don't think I have ever read the author's name properly until just then. I think it might have been on the audios, you know, when they do like the 2-for-1 credit deal. Anything that has been, you know, either longlisted or shortlisted for either the Booker Prize or the Women's Prize, I feel like I do always give those a little bit more of my time when I'm looking into what books might be interesting. They're really good if you want to read a bit more diversely, or if you want to read something that obviously is a lot more literary focused, if that makes sense. This is about a war photographer set in Sri Lanka in the... when is this set? Is this the 80s? Yeah, Colombo, 1989. And it's about this war photographer, Marley, who wakes up and he has died. And in the afterlife, there is like an admin stage where you have 7 moons to either continue on into the afterlife, or you get stuck in purgatory for basically eternity afterwards. And it's about this character trying to understand why and how he died, and also trying to make sure that his work gets put out into the world and doesn't just get locked away and hidden. This was really interesting. I thought the audiobook narration was quite good. I thought the actual recording quality wasn't the best. I can't remember if this was a Audible exclusive. Sometimes I wonder where they do the recordings, because some aren't aren't as clear as others, if that makes sense. And I don't know if it's just because I'm a bit more aware of it. Literally, where is this book? Belinda Audio. Don't know if it's just because I work in an industry that is all about, you know, your visuals and your audio, but I notice it quite a lot when the recording quality hasn't been that great. And maybe, I don't know if it's somehow about how it gets compressed in what file type it is, but it was a little bit on the kind of muffled side, or yeah, I just feel like the mics that they used didn't pick it up crisply. But the actual narrator and the voice and how he brought the character to life, I thought was done really well. This was a very interesting story and I liked part of it. I have never read anything set in Sri Lanka before, I don't think. So it was really interesting in that regard. And I liked the idea of the afterlife having this sort of like admin stage to it and everyone's still having to like queue up and wait and go on to the next stage. I thought was really funny. And it's great because they're like trying to convince him to just like go through the process because he's like causing problems and not just going along in the system and coming to terms with his death. He's like running around and trying to figure out how he died and who killed him, and you know, trying to get his photography and his negatives into the right hands and what he wanted to have happen with it. It is quite brutal, I will say. Like, it doesn't shy away from the realities of the type of content that he was photographing or what happened with his body, what happens in general, or what was happening in general during the time. I gave this a, let's have a look. I rated this a 3.5. Good narration. If you're into your more literary fiction, and especially fiction set in other countries and cultures that are different from your own, this was very interesting. So then I actually finished this on the same day that I finished the audiobook, but after Kingdom of Ash, I was literally felt lost. I was like, I don't know what to read next. I definitely had that, like that post-series depression where you just have to kind of like lay back and just be like, I literally don't know what to do anymore. So I thought, I'm going to pick up something completely different. I'm going to go for a romance. I'm going to just have a nice little break and read something cute and cozy. So I read The Cinnamon Bun Bookstore by Laurie Gilmore, which is the second book in the Dream Harbor series. So I believe the next one I have is book 4, because book 3 is the Christmas one, which I already read in December, which was actually the first Laurie Gilmore that I read. I think her new book literally came out either yesterday or today as well when I'm recording this. So that's quite exciting for when I get to that. But this follows Hazel, who manages the bookstore. And I thought this romance was literally so lovely. I really enjoyed this a lot more than the Pumpkin Spice Cafe. I really liked that there was not a massive age gap, but I kind of like that the male character was a bit younger and she was a little bit concerned about that and like what people might think and whether he was actually serious about his life and liking her. But this was just so fun. She was trying to not be as serious. She was like, I need to have a fun summer. And her fun summer ended up being having a lot of fun with Noah. There was a treasure hunt aspect to this, and then the ending and like the kind of declaration of love was so nice. I gave this a 4 stars. So far, I think this might be my favorite of them, but only because the Christmas one is obviously like specifically a Christmas book. Obviously, this one is set in the summer, but I feel like generally you can read these books at any point. Again, I'm terrible. I need to actually write down notes for what my thoughts were. But I mean, it's a romance. It's Laurie Gilmore. It was cute. It was cozy. It was spicy. What more could you want? It was great. So the final book that I read in April that I actually finished in the month was Divine Rivals by Rebecca Ross. I really enjoyed this. I wasn't expecting to enjoy it as much as I did, only because it's a YA fantasy, and typically I do like a lot more world building within my fantasy stories. But this was really sweet and it was a really interesting premise. Again, I quite like when there's a fantasy setting, but for the most part, the characters don't actually have any magic themselves. So this is set in a world where there are gods. A god has awoken and he's trying to get back his wife that put him into a centuries-long sleep to get away from him. So now for some reason they have brought in the humans into their war, so it's like an actual battle between them. It's set in, I'm not actually sure what era it's set. It kind of feels like 1940s sort of vibe, like as if there was a world war going on, but it's just between these two gods. Within this world, in our city, are two journalists, and they are kind of competing for the columnist position at the newspaper they work at. But something happens and Iris leaves to go be a war correspondent on the front line, and Roman follows her because he can't be without her and he wants to make sure that she's safe. This was really sweet. I loved the letter aspect of this. The magical typewriters are so interesting. It kind of made me laugh because I remember when I read Blood Over Bright Haven, which I didn't enjoy, sorry. And the whole time I was reading that, I was like, is this magic system literally just magical typewriters? And then in this book, there's like legit actual magical typewriters. And I was like, yeah, this is the kind of shit that I'm into. I really enjoyed the romance. I will say it's not an insta love. Obviously it does happen quite quickly, but these characters have known each other for a few months. But there is one point further into the story where it literally goes from them not being together to suddenly they have told each other how they feel, and then they're like, let's get married right here, right now. And I'm like, okay, you've literally only just said that you even like each other. So that, I feel like I had to knock it down a little bit because of that, but I still gave this 4 stars. I'm currently listening to the second book. Can't remember if I'm about halfway through it or not, or only about 40% through, but it's a very easy, enjoyable read. I'm excited to see where it goes, and it's only a duology, which I quite like. I like not having to commit to another like 8-book series. And I do think the writing is nice, and I am interested to see how it's going to wrap up, not only between our two characters, but the war that's going on. I feel like one thing from the first book is I wish there was more actual world building and explanation of how the magic even works and why there's gods, because it feels like there's just a human world, but then the religion is all about these gods. You kind of don't really know much more than that. I think in this next one we have gotten a little bit more, at least like stories about the gods. But yeah, we'll see where that goes. I did give this I can't remember if I already just said this, but I did give this a 4 stars. I do always wonder this when I listen to audiobooks. I wonder if I'd still give them the same rating compared to reading them physically and reading them via listening to an audiobook, because sometimes I think listening to an audiobook can really elevate your experience if it's done well. And luckily this one was done well. I will be able to speak about the full series in next month's wrap up. The one book that I nearly finished, an actual physical book. I'm trying to get through some more of my physical books because I feel like I have been on such a digital hype since I got my iPad, which is great, but I keep accumulating books and not reading them because then I'll just read on my iPad. But the book that I got most of the way through is Intermezzo by Sally Rooney. I got this for Christmas, not last year, but the year before that, and I was so excited for this. I love Sally Rooney, and then I think I was just scared to read it. If you know anything about Sally Rooney's writing, there are no quotation marks. It's all a lot more kind of stream of consciousness, which I really like. I feel like she does a really good job of you feeling like you're really in a character's mind, regardless of how much I've enjoyed her books, because there's some of them that I haven't enjoyed as much as others. This one was really interesting, really great. I'll go into a bit more detail in next month's wrap up, but that is the 5, I'm going to say like 5.5 books that I read, 5.75 that I read in April. Thanks for bearing with me. I am trying to be a bit more consistent, but it's hard because we're at a busy period now. We have our short film that we're doing in just under 2 weeks that I've got quite a bit of prep to do for now, and we've just been busy with some life bits and bobs, but I've still been reading, which is great. I can't remember if I spoke about this in the last one or not, but I have made a new Bookstagram account on Instagram. It's the same username as what I use here. It's Bookish Abby. So if you want to follow me on there as well, that would be lovely. Still just kind of trying to build things up and find the style that I want to do and the type of content that I want to post. But thanks so much for watching and bearing with me. Let me know what you read in April. What were your favorite reads? Have you read any of the same books that I have? What did you think of them? And I will see you with another video soon. Bye guys.